Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. November 3rd, 2017.
The Kuhner Report, presented by Kelly Financial Services. This is the Kuhner Report.
He's a traitor, a no-good traitor.
Bo Bergdahl skates. That's right, my friends. Breaking right now. The traitor himself walks away pretty much unscathed. Okay, I'll get to this breaking story in just a few seconds. First, my friends, a major announcement on the show today, 2:35. I hope all of you can tune in. Also, tomorrow, 9 a.m. till noon, a special show here on WRKO. It will be live. Myself and my wife, Dr. Grace, will be co-hosting the show. Please, we're going to urge all of you to listen, call in. It's going to be a live call-in show. So big news today, big news tomorrow. I hope all of you can listen. I have a fresh column up on WRKO.com. It is one of the most heartfelt, emotional columns I have ever written in my life. Please, I urge all of you, if you can, read it and pass it on to everybody. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Okay, my friends, stunning developments. So, as you know, Bo Bergdahl, who was held in Taliban captivity for nearly 5 years in Afghanistan, who pleaded guilty. This is the key point. He pleaded guilty to desertion and misbehavior in the face of the enemy, will serve no prison time. Not 1 day, not 1 hour, not 1 minute. The military judge in the case has ruled that Bo Bergdahl he gave Bo Bergdahl a dishonorable discharge. However, he says that Bo Bergdahl should serve and will serve no prison time for endangering his comrades, even though he walked off his post in Afghanistan. There is some kind of a penalty for Bergdahl. I think it's a slap on the wrist. Frankly, I think at this point it's even insulting. So Bergdahl has been given a dishonorable discharge. His rank has been reduced to that of private. And here it is. Here's the big whopper. He must forfeit pay. He's going to lose some pay equal to $1,000 per month for 10 months. The judge made no other comments. He just came in. You're not going to go to jail. You're not going to serve any prison time. This is a dishonorable discharge. Your rank will be reduced to that of private, and you are going to lose pay $1,000 per month for up to 10 months. Basically $10,000. Adios, amigos, and blank you to the American people. Now, let me be crystal clear on this. This is a travesty of justice. This is an insult to the men who died looking for him. This is an insult to their families. This is an insult to every single veteran who serves and has ever served in the military. This is an insult to our country. This is an insult to the American people. There are few things in my lifetime that I've ever seen as outrageous as this. This is utterly outrageous. And I want you to understand just how sickening this is. Remember, he was the one. He pled guilty, so there's no debate on this. He deserted his post. We know that he converted to Islam. We know that he hung out with his Taliban so-called captors and played soccer with them and hung out with the kids. We know that when he deserted his post, these are facts that I'm giving, there was an immediate search and rescue operation that commenced. At least 4 American service members died looking for him because they were ambushed. They had to go into Taliban-occupied territory. They had to look for him. They were ambushed by terrorists and Taliban fighters. 4 of them were murdered, and half a dozen of them were wounded. The people from those that served in that platoon demanded that Bo Bergdahl be tried, and they said at a minimum he should serve life in prison. I'll be honest with you, he should have gotten the firing squad. For what he did, he deserved the death penalty. Because there are mothers today whose sons and daughters they will never see for the rest of their life because they had to go and search for this loser who deliberately deserted and abandoned his post. And the reason why he deserted and abandoned his post was because he had turned on the war effort in Afghanistan and literally sought out the enemy and sought out the Taliban. And for this, never mind those poor other 6 service members who were seriously wounded. For this, you don't even spend a day in jail? He lost his rank. He's now a private. Hey, guys, take it easy. Hey, I don't want you to whip and chain the guy. And then this $10,000, just so that you know, the Washington Times reported that while he was in so-called captivity, they continued to pay him. He had accrued nearly $200,000 in back pay and benefits. $200,000 in back pay and benefits. $200,000. Okay, do the math. 200,000 minus 10,000. He's still walking away with $190,000, essentially, in pay and benefits. He may lose some of the benefits, but he's keeping most of it. That's a pretty good deal. If I'm going to screw my country, and I'm going to desert, and I'm going to commit treason in the face of the enemy, and remember, we are at war in Afghanistan. Of all of the wars that we're involved in, this is the one that has the clear authorization of force from Congress. Now, I think it's been going on too long. It needs a reauthorization if you want to stay in. But the fact of the matter is, we are at war in Afghanistan. Officially at war against the Taliban. Why? Because they were the very government and the very movement that sheltered and harbored Al-Qaeda, allowing them to hijack those planes, slam them into the Pentagon, slam them into the Twin Towers, and led to the death of 3,000 Americans on 9/11. And this guy searched them out? And this guy said that they were the victims and we were the aggressors? And because of his blatant admitted act of desertion, of treason, 4 Americans are not going to come home ever to their families, and 6 others wounded, and this guy walks away with no prison time, and basically a $10,000 fine? That's what it is? This is not my America. And I'll tell you what this is going to lead to. This is going to be profoundly demoralizing. Imagine now you're at a foxhole in Afghanistan and you read this. So let me get this straight. If Johnny decides to desert and basically screw us, and we end up sacrificing our lives to look for him, even if we capture him and bring him back for trial, basically, here, I'm slapping my wrist. That's the sound you're hearing. Basically, he's getting a slap on the wrist. That's it. Like, I'm not kidding. What I do to Ashton and Ava when they misbehave in the house. A little tap on the wrist. Ashton, stop poking your sister in the eye. Stop, Ashton. Stop teasing your sister. Little tap on the wrist. Stop it, Ashton. That's what we've just done to Bo Bergdahl. 617-266-6868. I'm sorry. And we gave up, by the way, 5 top Taliban commanders in exchange for him. And by the way, many of them that we gave back are now back on the battlefield plotting to kill Americans in Afghanistan, Iraq, or God forbid, here in the homeland. So, you had a commander-in-chief, Barack Hussein Obama, who was held accountable for nothing. Bo Bergdahl was his boy. So I guess if you're not going to hold the president accountable, what the hell? His favorite hostage? Why should he be held accountable? 617-266-6868. What is your reaction to the decision now, the verdict on Bo Bergdahl? Bill in Framingham. Go ahead, Bill.
Hi, Jeff. I think this is one of the most disgraceful things I have ever heard, ever. My father was in World War II. My brother was in Vietnam. I was in the Marines, and my son was a Marine that spent 2 combat tours in Iraq at the beginning of the war. This is an absolute outrage. I thought the guy was going to get at least life in prison, at least. And to hear this, it's awful. But my question to you is, seeing that President Trump is the commander-in-chief of all the military, can he relieve that judge of his duty immediately? Because that judge is probably a captain or a colonel or something like that. Can he just say, I'm relieving that guy? And that's my question to you. But this is
Bill,
outrageous.
Bill, thank you for that call. Look, I don't know if he can relieve him on the spot. I don't know. Look, we have double jeopardy. We're not going to be able to retry him again. In fact, that's the thing that I found shocking. There wasn't a trial. And one of the reasons why there wasn't a trial, Bo Bergdahl, he pled guilty. So the prosecution we don't have to prove a case. He pled guilty to desertion and misbehavior in the face of the enemy. So then it's up to the judge to deliver the sentence. And one of the reasons why, and his defense attorneys, I got to say, played this one perfectly. In fact, I don't want to pour more gasoline on the fire, but you need to know this. According to all the wire reports I've been reading, the lawyers were patting him on the back. When the judge gave his verdict, they were patting him on the back like, Bo, you did it, Bowie. Bowie, hey, Bowie. Like he's an innocent man. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, ho, Bowie, you dodged a bullet there. Good boy. You know, like a pat on the back. So, I mean, he pled guilty. And the reason why his lawyers told him plead guilty is because if there is a trial, here's what's going to happen. The parents of the service members who died looking for you are going to testify. Your former brothers and sisters in the platoon, they're going to describe how they felt betrayed by you and how they were looking for you desperately for weeks on end and how some of them were maimed and crippled in ambushes by the Taliban looking for you. And so that graphic, powerful, harrowing testimony, if that gets leaked out to the public and, you know, no sane judge can give you anything but at a minimum life in prison, if not the death penalty. So what you do is you just say guilty, 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 no trial, go straight to the penalty phase, and we got a moonbat here. We've got ourselves a really good, hardcore anti-American liberal. And so essentially, I'll tell you what this verdict is. What he's saying is essentially, you're the victim. You served your 5 years supposedly held captive by the Taliban. You paid your penalty, and okay, I mean, you did plead guilty to desertion and misbehavior in the face of the enemy. Okay, you're a sergeant. I'll make you a private, and $10,000. You still have $190,000. And adios, Bo. Have a nice life. 617-266-6868 is the number. Now, let me ask you, in all honesty, and you know I love the vets. In fact, next week, a week from today, next Friday, we're going to be holding, as we always do, a big fundraiser for the disabled veterans. We're going to be doing it from the Seaport Hotel. And it's one of the most emotional, powerful shows I do every year. Honestly, it's my toughest show because I see so many of these vets who have given so much for our freedom and for our liberties here in the United States. So, you know, I love you vets. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you. But I've got to ask the question. I mean, I feel punched in the gut. I feel like somebody just punched me in the stomach. How do you feel? I mean, I never, I wasn't in a cave in Afghanistan. I wasn't in in the sand and foxholes of Iraq or whatever, in the jungles of Vietnam or, some still Korea, World War II. I didn't serve and fight and die for this country. If I'm a veteran, I'm looking around saying, is this my America? 617-266-6868. Larry in Belmont. Go ahead, Larry.
I'm a veteran myself. I served during the Gulf War. I've become so jaded in my 47 years, nothing really turns my stomach. This did. I was absolutely disgusted at this. Now, look at this versus under the Obama era. I wish I could remember the military guy's name, but he caught some Iraqi or some Afghani raping a child in a tent next to his and beat the living tar out of him. He was sentenced to hard time for protecting that little boy.
Yes.
And this is what we get. The previous caller had it right. As commander-in-chief, no questions asked, Trump can sweep and clear anybody out he doesn't feel fit to serve. It's his right and his privilege. He needs to get rid of this judge to start with and then go piece by piece in every Obama-era yes man, because Obama did it too. Anyone that disagreed with him militarily, he swept out and put in a bunch of yes men. Same thing. He needs to sweep and clear the entire military regime because it's all Obama holdovers. And he should really go and look at all the records of all these people who were unjustly tried under Obama, the military people, our guys, and restore their full benefits and erase every sentence they got for defending people like that.
Larry, amen. And thank you for your service, Larry. Amen, brother. Trump, with this judge, should fire his ass. 617-266-6868. Your reaction to the Bo Bergdahl verdict? No prison time. Next. 12:26 here on the great WRKO. Okay, breaking news. It broke maybe half an hour ago, just 5 minutes before the show started. The military judge in the Bo Bergdahl case has now delivered the verdict. Bo Bergdahl pled guilty to desertion and misbehavior in the face of the enemy. The verdict, no prison time. Not 1 day in jail. His rank has been reduced from that of sergeant to private. And he's going to have to pay about a $10,000 fine, $1,000 per month for up to 10 months. He still collected nearly $200,000 in back pay and benefits while he was held by the Taliban. So essentially, he's still going to have about $190,000 in his pocket. To me, an absolute outrage. And as you can text us, by the way, 680-680. This is from 617. Jeff, this verdict was a middle finger to Trump for calling Bergdahl a traitor. I think you're right, 617. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Go ahead, Arthur.
Thanks, Jeff. As somebody who served in the military for 4 years and a year in Korea, I was on my way to Vietnam. I almost fell off my chair when I heard the verdict. That this is impossible in the military. That someone who was convicted of desertion does no time. How is that possible? I mean, on the face of it alone, it makes absolutely no sense.
Arthur, I'm just curious. As somebody who served in the military, you obviously know the military culture. Why was the judge so excessively, outrageously lenient? Was it because he had, 5 years captivity under the Taliban, and he figured that was pain and suffering enough?
No. It's first of all, I'll tell you how I'm shocked that the Secretary of the Defense, the Secretary of the Army, when you get into things like this that are so public and has so much attention, I'm shocked that this guy could make this decision on his own, or he did make it on his own and defied everybody. Because there's no way a Secretary of the Army a true Secretary of the Army, a true military people would allow this to happen. I mean, this guy's a renegade. He's a rogue, as far as I'm concerned.
He's a traitor. Yeah. He's a complete traitor.
And to trade 5 generals. I mean, they lied to us at the time. Anyway, you remember Susan Rice saying that he served this country with distinction and honor, which was a bold-faced lie to begin with, and you know, I guess lying to the American people doesn't matter if you're a Democrat.
Arthur, thank you for that call. Look, this thing was a sham. This thing was a scam. I'll tell you right now, we were being played. We thought this was a genuine military investigation and military trial, and it turned out to be nothing more than a big dog and pony show. He comes in there, he doesn't want a trial because he knows the damaging testimony. He pleads guilty, throws himself at the mercy of the court, and they say, you know what, Bo? You were Obama's boy from the get-go, and we sold out the store to get you. 5 senior Taliban commanders. You know what? You're going to go home, Bo. You're going to go home. 617-266-6868. Your reaction to the Bo Bergdahl verdict. Was it outrageous or fair? But first, let's take it to Jackie Murphy with the latest in the newsroom. 12:36 here on the great WRKO. Okay, big announcement today at 2:35. You don't want to miss it. Also, a special show, 9 a.m. tomorrow till noon. Myself and Dr. Grace, yes, my wife, who will be co-hosting a live call-in show. So please tune in tomorrow between 9 a.m. and noon. I have a very personal, emotional column that I have written. It's up on WRKO.com. Please, I urge all of you, if you can, read it. Send it off to your friends, family members, and colleagues. Okay, breaking news. Bo Bergdahl, the traitor. Verdict has now come in. Even though he pled guilty to desertion and misbehavior in the face of the enemy, even though 4 service members died trying to find him in a search and rescue operation, 6 others were severely wounded by ambushes by Taliban fighters, the judge has ruled that Bo Bergdahl will not spend 1 day in prison. No prison time for Bo Bergdahl. His rank will be reduced. He's been dishonorably discharged. He will go from a sergeant to private, and he will pay about $1,000 per month for 10 months as a kind of financial penalty. He will essentially pay a $10,000 fine. He accrued over nearly $200,000 in back pay and benefits while he was held captive by the Taliban for 5 years, so he's still walking away with $190,000. Hey, for screwing your country, that's a pretty good deal. 617-266-6868 is the number. Listen now. If you remember, when there was Obama in the Rose Garden, smiling, I've never seen him so happy. He almost looked pregnant. He was glowing. With Bo Bergdahl's father, when they announced that Bergdahl had been traded for 5 senior Taliban commanders. Here is his father. Roll it.
I'd like to say to Bo right now, who's having trouble speaking English, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Zayabayem. I'm your father, Bo. The people of Afghanistan, the same. Khalifa al-Thani, the complicated nature of this recovery will never really be comprehended. To each and every single one who affected this in this country, in the service branches, at the State Department, throughout the whole of American government, and around the world at international governments around the world. Thank you so much. We just can't communicate the words this morning when we heard from the President.
I mean, I never saw the dear leader so happy. Bo Bergdahl had converted to Islam, so I guess, he was bringing not just a hostage home, but a Muslim hostage home. And I got it, hala, Bo.
I'd like to say to Bo right now, who's having trouble speaking English, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Zayabayem. I'm your father, Bo.
I'm your father, Bo. Allah, Allah, Allah. Allah, Allah, Allah. And notice how the Pashtun, the accent, the dear leader must have taught him how to say it in such a perfect accent like that.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Look at this.
Zayabayem.
Look at this. Look at this. People who've been generations in Afghanistan don't speak Pashtun like that. That's from the dear leader. 617-266-6868. Okay, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day. Because we're going to get into this in the next hour. It's official. She rigged it. She rigged it. She freaking rigged it. Hillary Clinton, it's now official, rigged the Democratic primary against Bernie. There's no getting around it. So, the question I have for you, it's a very tough one. Very tough. You may want to take your time because I can see you going back and forth. Sponsored by Bill Kelly Financial Services. Who is a worse person? Who is worse? A, Hillary Clinton. B, Bo Bergdahl. So if you believe it's Hillary Clinton, text the letter A to 680-680. If you believe it's Bo Bergdahl, text the letter B to 680-680. As always, you can vote online at WRKO.com, and I think they have two things in common. Number one, that's why this is a very tough one. I got to be honest with you, I don't know how to vote on this one. They're both traitors, and both of them are never going to see a day behind bars. And Brittany, and they both got American soldiers killed. So, both are traitors, both will never see a day behind bars, and both got American soldiers killed. This one, I'm telling you, this could be 50-50, Brittany. The first 50-50 we've ever had. Russ in Boston. Go ahead, Russ.
First of all, they're both equally guilty, and both of them should be in prison. You know, Jeff, today this decision breaks my heart. All I can think of is the American prisoners of war throughout all of our wars who have been tortured to death for only giving their name, rank, and serial number. And this person is getting away with this. He should be spending 20 years in prison. And, Jeff, I understand that we have bonehead judges in our states and in our federal courts. But, you know, I didn't know until today that we also have bonehead judges in the military. And that's what saddens me more than the bubble-headed judges in our states and federal courts.
Russ, thank you for that call. Very well said.
Jeff, I want to add one more thing.
Yes, go.
Okay?
Yes.
If you want to see truth and justice on the screen, watch the movie The Nuremberg Trial. Brilliant performances by Spencer Tracy and Burt Lancaster that gives you an example of what truth and justice is.
We need a Nuremberg for the Obama regime. That's what we really need. We need a Nuremberg for all of these criminals to be lined up, shamed, indicted, and prosecuted and convicted. That's what we want. Send them all to jail. I'm telling you because that's what they deserve. Ted in Winthrop. Go ahead, Ted.
Jeff, hi. This is Ted.
Hi, Ted.
First off, love your show. Avid listener every day. I'm sorry I had to call on this issue. You know, I'm retired Air Force. I did 22 years. And I love my country. And I am totally disgusted what is going on. I mean, this is the Bergdorf thing. It's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I'm still in touch with a lot of people in the service, and I hear the atrocities and the things that they're dealing with. You know, I'll tell you a story. Back in '79, when I first went in, I was up at Shepherd Air Force Base in Texas, Wichita Falls, Texas, back before this Argo thing and the hostages. And I was in a club with a bunch of Iranians. They were pilots learning to, pilots, co-pilots, navigators, gunners, whatever. And I was in a club one night. I was in tech school learning to be an accountant, and a couple of these guys started feeling up our women. And I went and I had a confrontation. I got in a fight with them and knocked one of them out. And you know who was arrested? Me. I was put in jail. I was reduced in rank from airman first class to airman. I lost $500 pay. And that was for defending my own because they have diplomatic immunity, and it's just disgusting.
So, Ted, I just want to make sure I hear exactly what you're saying. So this was years ago. I take it before the Shah was overthrown, correct?
Right. Yeah, before the Shah.
Before the Shah was overthrown. So there you are. The Iranians we did a lot of coordinated military activities with them. They were our allies. These guys are assaulting and feeling up our women. You defend our women who are being essentially sexually assaulted. You knock one of these barbarians out, these losers out, and you're the one that gets arrested because they've got diplomatic immunity.
Absolutely.
Well, you see, Ted, that was your mistake, Ted. What you should have done is when the Shah fell from power, you should have defected to the mullahs in Iran. Do you see what I'm saying, Ted? You should have converted to Islam. You should have spilled all of the secrets that you had about us. And then you could come back to America, you would rack up all this back pay, and a judge would say, Ted, I feel so sorry for you, Ted. Here's a little slap on the wrist, Ted. Pay me $10,000. Go back home to your family. That was your mistake, Ted, is that you're a patriot.
Well, I mean, Jeff, if I had the airfare, and if I knew what I know now, maybe I would have done that.
Ted, thank you for your service, and God bless you. You're a great guy, stand-up guy. We need more men like you who will protect women from these pigs and people who will sexually assault. And is, by the way, very common in the Islamic world. Very common. But let that go. 617-266-6868. But no, you're right. It's just, I'm thinking of all the guys. Just let me ask here, all you guys that served in Vietnam, I'll just pick one. Guy deserts to the Viet Cong or the North Vietnamese? And you don't know what happened to him because he's on guard, right? He's doing whatever, the night watch. You wake up, you think, was he abducted? Was he kidnapped? Oh my God. We got to find him. He's one of ours. And so there you are going through the jungles, risking your life and limb. And you got 4 boys that don't come back home and 6 others that are maimed or crippled. And you got to meet their parents or their wives or spouses or whoever. And you found out this guy deliberately deserted because he was against our war effort against you and sympathized with the enemy and essentially became a communist. I'm just using the Vietnam analogy now. He became a Muslim. And then he comes back home. And he's got back pay waiting for him. They put him on a desk in Texas this whole time. You know what this guy's been doing? He's been pushing paper at a desk in freaking Texas. And then they say, well, let's not have the trial. No, let him plead guilty because then all the boys are going to be testifying how they had to look for him and how they lost whatever. They lost Billy. They lost Joey. Tony got his legs blown up. And then talk about the spouses and the parents and how much they've lost. No, it's going to look bad for him. Let's just go to the penalty phase right away. They didn't even take his $200,000 away. They gave him okay, let's take 10, you have 190, and go party with it. 617-266-6868. Nina in the car. Go ahead, Nina.
Hello.
Nina, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
Love your show.
Thank you, Nina.
You and Mrs. Kuhner tomorrow?
Yes, 9 a.m. Until noon. We're really looking forward to it.
So am I. Jeff, I'm going to come at this with a sort of a different lens.
Yes.
I heard in the last couple of days on the news that Bo Bergdahl possibly had some type of psychological disorder, mental disorder, that caused him like a social anxiety type of disorder. And this caused him not to have the executive control in order to be able to make those decisions when in the theater that one has to make. Is that true? That's my question. I mean, are we allowing people with mental disorders into our military to fight these never-ending wars that we have going on?
Look, it's a very important question. I think it's a $64,000 question. We have an all-volunteer military. I think ultimately, I love the vets. You know that. In fact, to volunteer, I think is even more impressive than if you're drafted. You're drafted, whether you like it or not, you have to go. You're volunteering to potentially lay down your life for your country. So again, please, I don't want people to misunderstand me and think I'm criticizing the boys and the girls, the troops, when I'm not. I actually think an all-volunteer military is unfair. I do. I really do. I think it's profoundly unfair. I know they sign up for it. I understand it's voluntary. I don't think it's fair for a very small segment of the population, basically 1%, to do the fighting and the dying that benefits the rest of the 99%. To use Elizabeth Warren's terminology, okay? The 1% and the 99%. I think it's grossly unfair. And to keep sustaining this when you have so many wars as we have, I think you're right. We are now lowering standards. We are. And we're not properly vetting people. And I think we're allowing people to serve that really have no business to serve. On this particular case, however, none of the people that served with him, from my understanding, I've read interviews, I've read stories on this. Nobody came out and said, there was something wrong with Bo. There was a screw loose. We felt he had a psychological disorder, an emotional disorder. He just wasn't quite, okay. They never said that. They said the opposite. He was perfectly fine. But he became increasingly disenchanted with the war in Afghanistan. Well, I'm sorry. You signed up. You served. You want to be an activist or a peacenik, then don't join the military. And so he willfully and deliberately committed treason and desertion. War is hell. Ask the boys in the foxhole, and now the girls, because we have women now that serve. You don't think they want to go home? No matter how noble the cause. You think you want to be there in a cave, not having showered for weeks, shelling, ambushes, could potentially be killed at any moment? You don't think you don't want to be home with your family watching NFL football or whatever, being with your son and daughter on a Sunday? But you don't. Because if you start allowing people to just leave and desert, your military is finished. They did their duty. He didn't. In fact, they so did their duty that they went and looked for him. And people died. And you have mothers, I've seen them, mothers and fathers, crying on television, saying, my boy is never going to come home because of Bo Bergdahl. And forgive me, this SOB doesn't even get to spend a day in prison? I'm sorry. It's sickening. Nick in Weymouth. Go ahead, Nick. Nick.
Hello.
Nick, did I disturb you? Are you having lunch or something?
Yes, I was just tossing down the rest of my clam chowder. Hey, Jeff, and by the way, condolences as well about Bill Kelly.
Thank you very much.
I sent you a note. I got a little book from Dr. Grace when she had her show, and it was all about his childhood and growing up and stuff, and there's stuff in there about being a paperboy that kind of touched me directly, But it was a very humanistic thing, and I'm sure his life will be in, you guys were lucky to meet him, and all the people that you know, a genuine, person who cared about other people, and you'll have that forever in your heart.
Thank you, Nick.
The stuff about Bergdahl, yes, he's a traitor. Should have got worse. God knows how much money he actually got. And Russ touched on it too. When Obama got rid of lots of the senior military across the board, combat especially, but this also affected the JAG across all the military organizations. The Judge Advocate Generals Group. They are just as polluted with ideologues and liberals, just like the civilian side, if you will, in a federal court district, et cetera, et cetera. So the amazing thing is, 1 month after he was released, they made the determination, the Army did, that he had not collaborated with the Taliban in any sense during his period of activity. Incredible. And I'm saying to myself, really? How the hell would you know that? My suspicion is, are you still there, Jeff?
Go, you're on a roll.
Yeah, my suspicion quickly is this. All this was kind of at the time when they were changing the regulations for Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I suspect that he just happens to be a gay guy, no animosity intended there. He just happens to be a gay guy. That would have looked really bad for a gay guy becoming dishonorably discharged at that time or thrown in jail for 20 years. He's got plenty of money coming in, and the Washington Post did not say if his benefits will actually be affected. Actually, they went to the point of saying, typically that's what happens, you lose your benefits, but I don't think it's happening in his case because he's still getting the money.
He's still getting, he's getting the money, he's getting a lot of the benefits.
Right, he'll get the benefits. So
yeah, the only thing he's losing is $10,000, but on, big deal, he's getting $200, so
right.
That's still $190,000. That's pretty good, Nick.
So we've been wrong. Hey, Jeff, thanks very much for the time.
Thank you for the call, buddy. Jerry, I've got 1 minute. Go.
Jeff, thanks for taking my call.
Go.
At 2:35 today, when you make your announcement officially, I just want to give you one fact. He was a good man who did much good. Jeff, as a veteran, I'm offended, but I want you to think about this. As an American, I'm even more offended that Chris Paronto and Rob O'Neill and Chris Kyle, they're not the face of the military. Bo Bergdahl and Chelsea Manning are the ones that they're holding up as the face of the military, Jeff. That's what offends me.
Oh, you nailed it. Bingo. You absolutely nailed it. Look, to me, I think this is an outrageous decision. I really hope that General Mattis speaks out on it. I hope that President Trump speaks out on it. And I hope at a minimum that President Trump, at a minimum, fires this military judge so fast that his head spins. Okay, coming up next, Judy Kennedy, the mayor of Lynn. We're going to have her on. You don't want to miss it. And Hillary Clinton, she rigged the nomination. Next.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 93.7 WEEI HD2 Lawrence, Boston. It's 1 o'clock.